Shout out to Craig J for sending me this update to a story that I did a couple weeks ago involving this black man by the name of Darquan Jones. Now, if you remember, he was the black man in Des Moines, Iowa, who was viciously attacked by two white males. Well, two palm-colored sperm mistakes. And these are the two mistakes that you see right here on your screen. And their names are Dale Lee Millard and Jesse James Downs. Now I'm going to go ahead and read this article and see what else we can find out. Two Iowa men have been arrested in connection to the assault of a 22-year-old black man that the victim... two men have been arrested in connection to the assault of a 22-year-old black man that the victim, Darquan Jones, his family, and NAACP of Des Moines said was racially motivated. Dale Lee Millard was arrested Thursday morning and charged with willful injury causing serious injury. Millard, aged 28, made admissions to the May assault, which began near his property on the 100 block of E. Titus Avenue and ended in a nearby creek bed. During a Friday morning news conference, Des Moines police said an arrest warrant had been issued for a second suspect in the case. Jesse James Downs, aged 27, turned himself in a few hours later at 1 p.m. and was charged with willful injury causing serious injury. The willful injury charges are punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Jones, aged 22, suffered multiple facial fractures, a broken wrist, and other injuries that resulted in 10 stitches during the assault. He said he was choked, punched multiple times, and dragged to the creek, where his head was held under water. Jones told the Register he was on his way to his girlfriend's house at around 3:25 a.m. May 16th, when at least two white men attacked him, thinking he was trying to break into a nearby home. Jones gave the men his name, he said, but they attacked. He tried to run away from them, but they caught up to him in a nearby field. He recalled where he was choked and punched multiple times. I couldn't breathe. I just kept blacking out. I could see my whole life just going in and out, in and out. The men dragged him to a nearby body of water. Jones described it as a creek and held his head under the water in an attempt to drown him. Darquan Jones said he heard the cock of a gun before two women who had heard his screams from an apartment nearby went outside to see what was going on. See, if those women didn't hear him scream, he probably would have been dead. He said once the women got there, the suspects yelled racial slurs at them and ran off. One of the women, Taia Campbell, I'm probably mispronouncing her name, age 40, told the Register the suspects were yelling that they need to get out of our area. We're going to get all of you out of here. So this lets me know that this area probably has a lot of black people that live there. And based on her name, I'm just going to assume she's black, and what they were saying and how they yell racial slurs towards them. This is probably a lot of black people there, or they just mad that it's black people that's probably moving in. Police arrived at the scene and discovered Jones lying on the ground with significant injuries. Jones has expressed lingering trauma from the assault, claiming he'll never be the same man after what happened to him. But now that arrests are being made, his father, Daryl Jones Jr., said his son is smiling again. It's a blessing, he said. Quan is really getting back to Quan. Jones' father, Daryl Jones Jr., and the NAACP of Des Moines said in a news conference a day after the assault that they'd expect hate crime charges to be filed if detectives determined the motive of the assault was fueled by racism. Well, them saying racial slurs to not only him, but also to those two women, I think it's safe to say that the hate crime charges need to be filed. After speaking with Quan, his family and the witnesses have come forward. If the story is as they stated is, then what occurred yesterday should be nothing less than a hate crime. Cameron Middlebrooks, president of the NAACP in Des Moines, said in the May 17th news conference. During Friday's news conference, Jones Jr., Middlebrooks, and House Representative Ako Abdul Samad pointed to flaws in Iowa's hate crime statute. Justice is all I've ever wanted, Jones Jr. said. He described the punishment in Iowa for hate crime charges as a slap on the wrist. Our hate crime laws in Iowa don't have any teeth in it, said Abdul Samad, who was drafting legislation that would increase penalties for hate crime assaults from a misdemeanor to a Class C or D felony, depending on the severity of the case. Now, that is some weak hate crime laws if all they are is a misdemeanor. Like, they held this man's head underwater with the attempt to drown him and then pulled a gun on him to possibly blow his brains out. Police initially said they would not call the assault racially motivated until the suspects were found and their motives determined. Perezik said at Friday's news conference that they still cannot call the assault racially motivated, pointing to the way Iowa laws are written. The way that hate crime laws are written, you have to establish motive. Perazek said, adding that most crimes do not require motive to file charges. It's pretty obvious to all of us the suspects show a lot of ignorance out there, but that doesn't meet the standard to file the charge. They did yell racial slurs and then try to, you know what, never mind. Ignorant statements don't translate into charges under the Iowa law. So it's calling someone a racial slur, and I'm only going to assume that they called him the N-word. That's just an ignorant statement. Get this guy out of here. Now, let's see. Now they have dug into the history of one of these guys. I'm not sure which one is which. It says in August 2019, Downs was charged with disorderly conduct, including fighting or violent behavior and consumption of alcohol in a public space at the Iowa State Fairgrounds after he was observed by officers as the primary aggressor in a physical altercation that resulted in gates being knocked over, as well as a trash can and a female being thrown to the ground. That same female victim recently filed a petition of relief of domestic abuse against Downs on June 8th, claiming he has threatened, punched, strangled, and dragged her by her hair in the past. In June 2017, Downs was one. Now I figured out, the one that they're talking about now, he's the one on the right. In June 2017, Downs was one of 2 people charged with assault causing bodily injury and disorderly conduct after a fight with a McDonald's employee over a long wait time. What is it with these individuals? Never mind. But see, they're going to try to probably use that and say, see, he's done this to other people in the past and they weren't black. We're just going to assume that they aren't. So how could they possibly say this was racially motivated? Because they're going to say if this was racially motivated, all of his other people that he attacked would have been black too. Get out of here with that. We ain't trying to hear that. The shit was a hate crime. In my opinion, in my eyes, I believe it to be a hate crime. Anybody who is hearing this can say that this was definitely a hate crime. They just trying not to slap the hate crime charges on them. But then again, this is Iowa we're talking about here. This is also the same state where that black man who owned a business went to that peaceful protest and his landlord just had to find an excuse to get him up out of his lease. But I'm glad that they did catch the perpetrators, whether they turned themselves in willingly or not, which it looks like to me that they did just turn themselves in. But they need to find a way to go at them and really go at them, especially since that one right there on the right has a history of physical altercations. But this one right here almost went to another level because they almost killed somebody. So, and it's crazy because seeing as how lenient they are with these hate crime charges, with Darquan Jones being alive, imagine how much lenient they probably would have been had he died.